Strength trials file 2. Open up the week. Dynamic effort bench. This is my second week of this. On the eccentric portion, we have 165 for 10 sets of 3. Down there, pausing on the pins. This morning I was all jacked up on Monday morning because I was watching a lot of my boy Jimmy Preston, the real deal, Thrill Ride, on Instagram. Do yourself a favor and check him out. The guy is an absolute savage. He makes the fucking morning go nice when you can pull up a couple of his videos and see how intense that guy is. But anyway, that's what I opened up Monday with, some Jimmy Preston and then some dynamic effort bench going down to the pins. Pausing down there, and we're driving up strong. Here's Steve at Metro Gym. Metro got a new facility, so Steve's all jacked up about it. That's my buddy Johnny Stillo in the back. Haven't seen John in a long time, but I know he's doing well for himself, and I believe he's pretty happy, so I'm happy for John, and I hope everything's well with him. Here's Kyle. Kyle has moved into more of a DUP, little daily undulating periodization. For those of you who don't know what that is, he's really working with the core movements 3 times a week. So he's squatting, benching, and doing some type of variation of deadlift 3 times a week. What do I know about DUP? I know that it works for a lot of guys who can handle the frequency, guys who like the frequency. Kyle likes the simplicity of it. Myself, as I said before, I have done these squatting multiple times a week and benching multiple times a week, and they have worked for me. But ultimately, I do end up, whether it's getting injured, whether it's, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't work for me long term. But there are some really, really strong guys, especially in the USAPL and the IPF, that do daily undulating periodization. And if you're one of the guys that enjoy just working with the core movements and really practicing and setting up and kind of just ingraining that range of motion into your body, then I would suggest you give it a shot. I know Kyle got his programming or his numbers from Lift.net. So if you're interested in DUP, go take a look at it. I know it's something that a lot of guys, like I said, have a lot of success with. So give it a look. Here is my speed day. I worked with 5x5 with 225, and then 10 sets of 2 with 275 on the deadlift. Here is Sammy's speed day. He's working with that nice wide stance. I like to see him with his knees out like that. He's driving up through. He's working with probably about 225 here. Some average bands on there. He's really finishing through the top of the lift. Sammy's he's understanding it more and more every day. And I'm excited to see his progress in the next couple weeks. Here's Steve pulling 405 for 1 sumo. Steve has made it a point now to really focus on his, he goes sumo to conventional here, but he's been really focusing on his hips. So you're going to notice later in the video on Saturday, he's doing some low bar box squats. That's why his knees cave in. You know, he's done some research on himself and where his leverages are and what he thinks it could be. So we're really going to try to hammer the hips out, and then we're going to see if that proves to be his weak point. I think it is. I think he's not a very wide-hipped guy, but I think that could be something that if he can make stronger, we're going to put some bigger numbers up. Here's my max effort day. Tyler hit 255. This is Tyler's last day. He's now at college. It was awesome having him around all summer, having a training partner who was willing to wake up early in the morning and get it done. That right there was 315 for 1, and then I moved into some shoulder saver work with 225 for 3x8. I got new wrist wraps. Those are Elite Fitness Javelin wraps, 60 centimeters or millimeters or whatever they are, but it is an awesome wrap. I did have old Rogue wraps that I was using. They weren't very long. They were about a foot long, but I really enjoy those yellow wraps. They're neat. Here's 405 Sammy working with a Y grip. As I said before, he's a very narrow stance squatter or bencher. So I said, tweaking things little by little could, be different exercise, different max effort exercises for him in the conjugate system. So he moved his hands out real wide, and he was still able to bang out 405 for 1. He's just a really strong bencher, man. The guy's throwing around some big weights. There's Kyle's row variation or deadlift variation there, and then he moves into, I believe this is 275 for a triple. Then he goes into some more squatting. So this was, I believe, Friday for him. But it's his last day of the week doing the main movements. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, Kyle does a little bit of prowler work. He does a little farmer's walk, a lot of core work, things like that. He is squatting beltless, sleeveless. He's just kind of being as raw as possible, trying to build up a nice base. We are training for the December meet in the RPS. A bunch of us are, so hopefully, we can stay healthy and dominate that meet. Here's Steve, and I told you about the wide stance. That's about a 12-inch box. Steve does a good job driving his knees out on the bottom and really reinforcing that, driving the knees out on the way back up. Right there, he's driving, spreading the floor with the feet, screwing the heels into the ground. I think he's got to work there for a little bit. I think he should do maybe a 3-week wave or a 4-week wave of just working down to that low box and then ultimately getting rid of it, testing, seeing what works, what feels good, and then moving on from there. I think he's going to have some success with it. So here's my max effort day. Football camp has started, so all my training has been about 5 a.m. in the morning, so that's a little bit different for me. Normally I train around 6, but 5 a.m. it's an hour difference. You got to get used to it, being that it's the first week. You got to train your CNS to be awake and firing that early. This was a bit of a struggle. This is a cambered bar front squat, and I have some bands on there, but it is a really core-dominated movement. You can sit down in the box relatively easy, but right there, that weight wants to start to swing. So it really challenged the upper back. It challenged the core and the lower back. I made it out alive. We worked with 315 there, so it's going to set the mark. I'll wave back around to that and hopefully and beat that PR. But this is the first time also that I'm deadlifting since my meet. Conventional, too. I haven't pulled conventional about 2 or 3 months. This felt pretty good. I worked off blocks. I did 405 there for 5, and then I moved into 495 here for 3. All the sets felt good. All the sets felt explosive. I am a little sore and tender in the lower back today. But that's to be, that's going to happen, being that I haven't pulled conventional in a while and the weight was moderately heavy. I was very happy with the set, though. I wasn't scared of it. I want to get around to the point where 5 plates on the deadlift is nothing. So I think that's a big mental block of mine. As soon as 5 plates get on, I start second-guessing myself a little bit. But I want to get to the point where it's nothing, and I think this is a good first step. So I hope everybody had a good week. Stay safe and stay strong.